Very important medical disclaimer. Information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health care provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment before undertaking a new health regimen. Welcome to the Holistic Health Explained podcast. I'm your host, Shante Fox, and my guest for today's episode is Renee Flores, owner of Radiant Healing. Renee Flores is a light worker focused on the movement of life force energy. She is a certified Usui Reiki master and chakra balancing practitioner, first trained in 2021. On a retreat that was planned with the intention of learning Reiki, chakra balancing was added as a bonus. The immediate effect and energetic shift she experienced after her first session quickly revealed a powerful new healing method. Although she infuses Reiki into multiple facets of her everyday life, chakra balancing is her favorite modality to introduce to clients. With the belief that we all have the power to heal ourselves, she serves as an energetic conduit for others, fostering internal equilibrium. Assisted by many sacred tools including crystals, essential oils, tuning forks, and pendulums, she aids in restoring balance to the human energy field through the lens of unconditional love. Fluent in English and Spanish, she is able to offer a guided meditation throughout the service that allows clients to simply relax and recharge. Welcome to the show, Renee, and thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. There are a lot of what I like to call woo-woo words in my introduction of you. And I say that because that's exactly one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast. I hear a lot of energy workers use words like we just used, energetic shift or energetic conduit or internal equilibrium. And I know that people who are not familiar with how energy works or are in this holistic realm have to be wondering what the world does that even mean, right?
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. But before we do get into any of my questions for you, I'm going to ask you my icebreaker question. Would you please share a fun fact or something that many people might not know about you?
Of course. Let me start by saying thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for exploring these topics more.
Absolutely.
I think it's an area of a lot of misunderstandings, and opening up line of communication can foreshadow how beneficial it can be to everyone.
Exactly.
I am currently able to offer services in English and Spanish, but what some people wouldn't know is that I actually feel a little bit behind, because I would like to ideally be fluent in at the minimum 5 languages.
Wow.
So I got some work to do, actually.
Are you, is there anything you're in the middle of right now learning?
I've been learning, shout out to Duolingo, thank you.
Yes, I'm on that app too.
I've been learning Italian for the last couple of years.
Okay.
My background is Polish.
Okay.
And every time I'm given some unlimited lives on the app, I try to go back to Polish, and it is still just indecipherable. I have no idea what they're saying. So I'm thinking I will stick with Latin, Italian, French, maybe Portuguese, but likely I'll have to stay all in that same realm.
Gotcha.
I don't think I will be doing my grandparents any justice with trying to learn Polish.
I know. I'm excited because I'm getting close to I have almost a 365-day streak going right now. I'm getting close. I'm like maybe 20 days away or something like that. So I'm like, oh, I'm almost made it a whole year. I'm just learning Spanish, which is something I should already know because I grew up here in the Southwest, next door to Mexico. My high school was predominantly Hispanic. I took Spanish in college, and I still haven't got it down. And I'm like, I don't know why I can't I know some basic stuff, but like just to actually have a conversation with somebody, and even doing the app now, it's been like, now that I'm getting more into a little bit more advanced stuff on the app, I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. Why do they do it this way?
It's difficult.
It's
I
hard.
took Spanish in school, both in high school and college. And when I went to speak with people, I was not as far as long as I would have liked.
Yeah.
And I was married to a Spanish-speaking native, and so I can say at this point that I can read literature, I can watch shows, I listen to the music, and I'm hoping that full understanding of Spanish will only help me to learn other languages.
Yeah,
but
right.
for years of learning Italian, when I go to formulate sentences, I kind of revert back to Spanish. So I think you just have to practice.
Yeah, I'm sure being like immersed in it too is more helpful. Yeah, my daughter's actually in China right now for the summer. She's doing a study abroad program there, and she's been taking Mandarin the last 2 years, and so she wanted to go there so she could be immersed in it and try and like actually be able to use what she's been learning. So it should be a great experience for her with that.
That's fantastic. Oh.
Yeah. So, but I guess that's how you just got to get thrown in there, and you have to use it, and you just got to, I guess it's easier to pick up that way.
Immerse yourself completely.
Yep. But okay, well, we will move on from that. So you are currently a partner here at Sozo Healing House.
Woo!
Yay for that. And so that's how we met. The services that you offer here are Reiki and chakra balancing, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to dive in a little deeper about chakra balancing, if you don't mind. Going back to what I was saying earlier about the woo-woo talk. I'm sure you've probably heard that before, right?
Yes.
But I'm in charge of doing like the advertising and like posting on our social media and stuff like that for classes for the different practitioners that work here, right? And a lot of times I'll get practitioners who send me verbiage like something like sacred womb healing session and no explanation as to what that is, right? And I'm like, if I didn't know anything about this realm and what, this type of stuff entails, that would scare me a little bit. Like, sacred womb healing, what the heck is that? What does that even...
Intriguingly
what
terrified.
do you do for that, right? So that's, part of why I wanted to do these interviews is so that people can explain a little bit further into detail in layman's terms, like I'd mentioned, so that people can fully understand like what it is and not be frightened by just the title of, whatever it is that it's called. So can you help explain to us and our listeners what is chakra balancing? And I kind of think that you should probably even start off with what is a chakra, because there's probably many people who don't even know what that means. So if we can kind of start off basic with, let's talk about what a chakra is and the different chakra system, and then talk about what you do with chakra balancing.
Yeah, of course. Chakra balancing and even the, ideology of studying chakras, it comes from ancient Indian traditions. It's deeply rooted in yoga and Ayurveda. And this is something, woo-woo or not, I like to embrace the woo-woo, but energetically speaking, I personally believe that a lot of the physical manifestations of illnesses and pain, even things like anxiety and emotional imbalances, all stem from unaddressed emotional issues or traumas. So a chakra, we each have many chakras actually, but the 7 main chakras were identified between 1500 and 500 years before Christ. So this is something that has been, it's in the Vedic text, the Upanishads. And chakra is a Sanskrit word meaning wheel. So for, people that don't know much about it or saying in layman's terms, a lot of us can have seen this depicted as wheels of light, of color, along your spine. So there's a lot of illustrations of like a yogic pose, and then the colors go just like a rainbow, Roy G. Biv, from your sit bones, where it starts red and then goes up orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And these chakras, they correspond to your nerve clusters that are tied to your endocrine glands. They regulate your hormones, your immunity, digestion, sexuality, even circadian cycles. So when your flow gets blocked through physical or emotional trauma, that is when you may struggle to recover from stress. You feel easily drained and just often low energy overall. So a chakra balancing system will help to bring your optimal well-being and health to just be able to affect you on a holistic level. A lot of times, especially in our world where Western medicine, unfortunately, is prone to give you a medication for something that's happening without always, I can't say all the time, but a lot of times not looking at the root issue.
Right.
So it's important to take care of our bodies and to eat right and get sunlight and exercise. But our internal equilibrium is something that is often not even looked at.
Right. Yeah. Very true. And that's what I talk about this in my introduction episode, where I kind of talk about what got me into this whole holistic realm and, opening Sozo Healing House. And it was through my own experience with a doctor who told me I needed to have my thyroid removed, even though it was perfectly functioning as a just-in-case scenario, because I had nodules on my thyroid. And, this is a specialist who I was seeing. And I said, well, why would I get rid of my perfectly functioning organ that I need to function for a just-in-case scenario? What else can I do? Like, there has to be something that, like, can we figure out why did I even get the nodules in the first place? Like, is there something I can do to try to get rid of the nodules before we go that drastic as to just remove the organ? And she had no answer for me. Like, she's like, no, there's nothing else, that I can do for you. Like, if you don't want to have the surgery, then there's nothing I can do for you. I'm like, okay, you're the specialist, but you only have one extreme option for me that
surgery
just doesn't
is usually
sit
the
well.
last result
Exactly.
after everything else has been tried.
So, I went to good old Google and started looking up my own answers, and that's how I went down that whole rabbit hole of all of these. First of all, what would even cause, like, she didn't even tell me that, like, what could cause the nodules. And I found, all this information on what could be the possible cause, the root cause of that, like you said, and, how you can address those root causes to possibly reverse them. I mean, it's not guaranteed that it would happen, but at least, maintain the status quo, if not get better, right? And so that's where I really was like, people need to hear this. People need to know that there's other options. They need to know that you need to find the root causes of the problems that they're having before just going to these drastic, extreme measures that might not be necessary, right?
Yeah, it's daunting to me that regardless of what the issue you're having, anybody I've spoken to, I've not found one person whose doctor has asked them, what is your work life like? What is your home life like? What is, maybe the cause of some of these stressors? And that really needs to be addressed because it's different for each person. But definitely, like in your situation, surgery should be the last resort. That should be, we're out of ideas, we need to do this. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that that's how it is, but, it is what it is. So, I don't want to bash on doctors, but there are some really good ones out there who do that and try to get down to the root causes, but they're few and far in between from what I'm finding.
They're overworked as well, and as time goes on, It's like those commercials. Have you seen them where they're being pulled from their
I've seen
patients
that.
and they can't even get because they just
Yeah.
don't have the time. There's so many people that are in need, and just same as when a lot of people that I know personally are prescribed a medication for something, it oftentimes either plateaus and doesn't work, or now it's caused another issue,
Yes.
which we will very quickly be prescribed another medication to combat that first issue.
Exactly.
And really, a lifestyle change is usually what's needed.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, people want the quick fix, and they're willing to just take the pill to get the quick fix, not realizing that the other damage that they're causing. Mm-hmm. So, yes, but
And and who's to say? I'm not trying to poo-poo on medication, and if it's something that you need or there's an imbalance that cannot be regulated other ways,
Right.
then absolutely, we have the medicine available, let's take it. But there's a big gap in the way that we are treating problems and looking at each individual's experience and how that's showing up in their life.
Right. Yeah. So, can you tell us maybe why someone would need chakra balancing? I know we just kind of went over some things, but is there anything specific or things that you can let our listeners know if you're experiencing this, or maybe like you just said, you've kind of gone through all of the Western stuff and nothing's working for you? Is this something that could help people like that? Like who is your ideal client to come see you for this service?
Strangely enough, my ideal clients are the people that introduce other people and say they could really use this.
Right.
And then they end up being greater affected by it. Chakras, they play a crucial role in regulating our emotional, our physical, our spiritual well-being. But there are signs to if you have a blocked chakra or a balanced chakra. And blocked chakras can result in really reactive emotional patterns, which I'm sure it's at all times, but coming out of this epidemic, I don't know if you've noticed it in your personal life, but people are very reactive.
Oh, yeah.
It is like an explosion, and it's understandable. We went through something that has changed things for everybody, and there's no precedent, and maybe now's the best time to start doing something different.
Right.
But that reactive emotional patterns, that confusion or feeling like people say, I'm lost, I'm going through this darkness of the soul, time. These things, anxiety, depression, even addiction, are signs of a blocked chakra.
Okay. So anybody with those types of issues could greatly benefit from
anybody. I mean, even through traditional therapy, or I've noticed a lot in my own spiritual work and doing energetic work, may it be hypnotherapy or even like yoga nidra. There, oftentimes, you will have memories come up that put you back in that state of fear, of upset, sadness, whatever it may be. So profound, like as if it were happening. But when you reflect on it, at the time when it happened, it doesn't really register. Like you think about it and say, that didn't impact me, that wasn't.
Yeah.
But really, they cause, here's a woo-woo word, samskaras. And what that is that is a block in your inner body. Chakras move this life force energy, is known as prana or chi. So when there's a block, you are stagnating the internal flow. And that's when things come up. So people that already have negative responses showing up, yes, 100%, but really anybody. We all walk around with traumas and hurts that don't even fall on the register. And that's why either yourself or with someone else, sometimes when you're in a discussion or a debate or a fight and someone responds in a way that is so juvenile or reactive. And, I've even said, like, man, you're acting like a child. It's because in that moment, they are a child. When that initial hurt took place, maybe when they were in grade school and they experienced humiliation or fear or upset, there will be things said or done to them in the future that will trigger that. And the reason people react that way is because internally it brings you right back to that moment. So you are, an 8-year-old girl upset on the playground because it triggered something that maybe you do or don't even think of as a traumatic experience for you.
Right. Yeah. I can say I've experienced that myself with some some childhood type trauma that I thought had not, was not affecting me at all, that later on I come to find out. Once I started doing all of this kind of work on myself and healing myself and my past and things like that, where I had that epiphany where I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It really was affecting me and I didn't think that it was. And once I addressed that, the problem went away. The physical problem, like you mentioned that earlier, addressing the physical problems with the emotional things that have happened, right? So.
Well, I think that's how people, our life, we are cyclical beings. We live in cycles. The moon has cycles. But a lot of times when we say, well, why does this keep happening? Or why do I keep getting into relationships with these similar types of people? And it's because life, it gives you the opportunity to make amends or to make a change. And when you don't have any change and you keep going through this, it's going to show up in a physical way in your body. It's like a halt for you to stop and pay attention to me. Your body is literally screaming at you like, hey, let's address this.
Right.
So
yeah, it's powerful. But, well, can you give us a little description or walkthrough of like what a typical chakra balancing session would look like? Like I know, people know, a lot of people are familiar with massage therapy, so they know, what to expect when they go in to get a massage. Is it something similar like that, or is it, more like a Reiki session? Maybe you can just give us a little visual of
one of the most common questions I get during Reiki is should I get undressed? So I will say chakra balancing and Reiki are fully clothed modalities. Every practitioner does things differently, but usually what you're going to do is come in and lay down either on the floor or massage table, however the setup is. In my case, I give a guided meditation, which I feel like just allows you to kind of let go and fall away. I'm very analytical, and even with a lot of experience in energy work, it's easy to get in your head and think, oh, I'm thinking about this, or fall in, I got to do this. The beautiful thing with energy work is there's no way to do it wrong. So you just come in and relax and get cared for. I like to, like one of my meditations goes through a rainbow and takes you through the bands of the rainbow, so you can be hyper present on which chakra we're working on at a time. And it allows for a multi-sensory experience. When we're in the red band of the rainbow, we're working on the root chakra. I like to use essential oils that correspond to each of the chakras. So when you're at the sacral chakra, you're talking about the orange band, and then I'll waft a Q-tip with sweet orange essential oil around by your nose. And then I personally have tuning forks that are to the frequency of each chakra. So hearing that resonant sound alone, you could just do the sound, and that would bring somebody's chakras into a balanced state. So when I do it, I like to use also, I never really used crystals before chakra balancing. Now I have found that it creates a deeper effect. So I use crystals and the essential oils and my tuning forks in combination with the meditation so that it all weaves together seamlessly. And you can have the most beneficial and most powerful, profound session, because these are things we could do every day. You could wear certain color clothes, the way you eat, the foods you eat, mantras, affirmations, things like that can all help you get into, which hopefully, I feel like we're coming into a new world, and everybody is realizing the importance of these things. I mean, I see videos of kids telling myself, I'm brave, I'm strong, and it's just awesome. So hopefully we're taking these steps day by day and then integrating this into our daily life. But if you could add chakra balancing as a modality with a certified practitioner to your, routine of self-care, it could result in having heightened vitality, emotional stability, elevated consciousness, even foster inner peace and purpose and knowing.
Okay. So, when you're doing a session with somebody, do you typically ask any questions of what's ailing them or what's been bothering them or anything? Or is it something where you just have them lie down and let your hands do the work? Are you able to kind of pick up on what is out of balance when you're doing a session? So, is there a specific chakra that you have to work on? Or is it more or less just cover all the chakras so they can just be in, they know what to do?
Yes. I, again, personally use a pendulum. So a lot of the meditation, it's a slow going meditation. I make people aware before we even start that there will be pauses in between my prompts so that they don't think, oh, are we done or what are we doing here? And at that time, I can go with a pendulum over each chakra to see how fast or slow it's moving. Okay. I do like to really, like I said, in anything I do now, I do like to set an intention, or rather invite an intention. I never want it to be something that causes a sense of stress for somebody to think, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm focusing on, because your focus could be to relax. I want to leave here and just feel like I had a 3-hour nap, and that's fine too. But with energy work in general, sometimes you get these clear as day signs or kind of like divine downloads of information, but it doesn't always happen right when you're on the table. Sometimes it comes days later. Sometimes it comes when you're in the produce section and, it just pops out of nowhere. So if you can or feel comfortable creating an intention, I always like to go with the tides of the moon. Like at new moon, I focus a lot on what's an intention, what's something you want to bring in. And at the full moon, what's something you want to release, maybe something you want to let go of that doesn't serve you, maybe just being judgmental or speaking, negative talk to oneself, things like that. And that allows you to enjoy your session and walk away feeling restored and balanced. But then in the coming days or even week in your dreams, you'll often get little hits, and it's a nice reminder, kind of a validator that what you're doing is in alignment with your highest good.
Okay. Yeah. So when people, when you're done with the session, I was going to kind of ask, what do people typically leave feeling like? But I'm sure it probably varies between everybody, right? Some people, like you said, may just feel super relaxed, like they just had a 3-hour nap. Some people may be maybe emotional even if something comes up for them during the session. Some may not feel anything, would you say? And then, like you said, days later, it hits them.
And I always say the best way to be in any energetic modality is to be free of expectation. Let it be what it is, what you need. Because, yes, you may wake up physical signs. Sometimes you sit up and it was the most relaxing time, and you sit up and just tears stream down your eyes. And I've had so many people touch their face and wonder, what's happening to me, because they don't realize that they weren't in a sad spot. They didn't feel any sense of discomfort, but it's just a release. I mean, you could be yawning, you could be laughing. Most common overall is a kind of feeling of being out of it. Like when you wake up, I always like to offer chocolate or tea, something grounding to bring you back, because that's part of doing this internal work. And there's a saying, everybody has their own beliefs, but I've realized and recognized that a lot of people in a religious community don't want to let on or accept things from metaphysical or spiritual, and vice versa.
Right.
But I think we've all heard the saying, as above, so below. That reflects on our chakra system, because the heart is a great place to start always. Start in love, and you'll be off on a good foot.
Yeah.
But in our world, we tend to live in our higher chakras, in our transpersonal chakras, or the upper, the crown and the third eye and the throat. And our root chakra, sacral, our solar plexus, this is where we don't ground in enough. We don't have the same practices, celebrations, rituals that honor Mother Earth and give thanks for all that we have. We are in our heads a lot. We've got all these thoughts going through our heads. We're always in this sense of the state of worry, or like you've heard, the fight or flight mode. So we often are walking around and we're up here, and we need to ground back down. So doing practices, even like affirmations or eating root vegetables, it can be just anything you integrate. This is very much something we all need to be focused on and trying to do for ourselves, because when you heal yourself, you're helping others around you, because you're able to show up in a way that honors the person you want to be in the world.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. One of my other guests had mentioned that about, when you heal yourself, you're healing the generation that came before you and the generation
and
that's
forward
coming
lineage as
after
well.
you. Yeah. So it's important work to do if you can do it. So, before we wrap up today, do you have any advice? You had mentioned just a second ago about people looking for a certified practitioner. Is there any advice you have for people who aren't here local and can't come book with you? What to look for if they're looking for somebody to perform this service for them?
Yes, you always do want to have someone that is certified. There's not that much regulation on modalities that are new to our Western world, even though they've been around for so long. So you want to look for somebody that has some certification or some knowledge, and hopefully with any kind of healing work, may it be traditional medicine or the practices we've been talking about here today, at least that first visit with a practitioner, with a doctor, whomever, I always gauge is how much time do they have to talk to you. So that first session should always be longer, because obviously we're going through different things at different times, but when you're first meeting someone, I think a good indicator of their best intentions at hand is to make sure that they're taking time to speak with you on a soul level, and understand where you're coming from, maybe problems or things that arise that made you want to come to a new modality, and be willing to explore. Everything's great if you do it once, but really it's necessary to stay in your routine of doing these things. So if you can find a practitioner whom with you feel comfortable after that first visit, hopefully with all the accreditations and certifications to back, then that's someone that you can move forward with and continue to do this type of work, because it's like an onion. As the lotus, the 1,000-petaled lotus unfolds, and what happens is you shed acquired levels of, layers of artificial conditioning, and that's when you can receive soul level guidance.
Yes, beautifully said. Thank you. Do you have any other words of wisdom or advice you'd like to give to our listeners today before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I feel like everything in this world is pretty serendipitous. You find the things that are meant for you. So likely, if they're listening to this podcast, it is by no happenstance. It is
Right.
because they have already shown some interest. And we in this technological age have the beauty of having our telephones and the information right at our fingertips. So if this is something that you have entertained, even if it's not booking a private session today, I would encourage everybody to look up some bija mantras like the Yam, Ram, Om, mudras or hand signal placement that you can channel energy that way.
Okay.
And look for things that you can integrate into your daily life right now. There's things that you can do in this moment that directly correlate to whatever issue or, even something that you're trying to work on. I promise there is loads of information out there and things that you can put into practice right away to see the results for yourself. And then you don't need any more information because you'll be able to feel it.
Right. Yes, that's good advice, because there are a lot of things that people can implement right now on their own.
Absolutely.
Until they find that right fit for, whatever healing modality is that they feel drawn to. Tell our listeners how they can find you if they are interested, here local in the Arizona area and would like to book a session with you, or just reach out to you if they have any questions.
Yeah, of course. I would love to dive into this topic. It has been so wonderful speaking with you.
Yes.
Again, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you for introducing this to the public. I am currently working here out of the Sozo Healing House. I also have a Instagram page that I've created under Radiant Healing with Renee, and can be reached via email at radianthealingenergyservices@gmail.com.
Awesome. And I will put all of that in the notes, so if people need to see it, they can, it'll be written out in the notes section, so they can easily find you if they choose to do that.
Fantastic.
So thank you once again for being my guest today. It was great getting to hear all of your information and learning a little bit more about chakra balancing, because I've never even I have to schedule my appointment with you, because I've actually never had it done myself. So I'll have to do that too. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's episode of Holistic Health Explained. I'm your host, Shantae. Be well, my friends.
Be well.